The Nintendo 3DS has been around for over 9 years. That is a long amount of time, outliving the Wii U and the PlayStation Vita. It's technically supported after all these years, but not really. I want to take some time to look back at it because I'm pretty sure it won't be alive for much longer. The 3DS is a successor to the Nintendo DS and improves in almost every way, being a lot more powerful, having more buttons, and better graphics. It was created when 3D technology was big and watching 3D movies was cool. Now, the 3D is nothing more than just a novelty. The 3DS has gone through so many revisions, a total of 6 different system variations. The first one was the base model released in 2011. It was released at $250 and wasn't selling mostly because it was overpriced and there weren't that many games justifying the purchase, so it was reduced to $170. This is the first video game console I owned and is my favorite Nintendo console by far. But this thing isn't perfect. There are small little things here and there. The screen was way too small for my liking, but for an 8-year-old Eevee, I was able to get by with it. The start, select, and home buttons felt weird. I don't really know how to describe them. They weren't like traditional buttons you find on a controller. It had 2 outward-facing cameras and 1 inward-facing camera for pictures. But the main thing that the 3DS was about was, of course, the 3D. 3D was not really good on the first few models. When it worked, it was really cool, but only when it worked. It was hard trying to get it to work. You had to be looking at the screen completely still without moving or it would lose focus. Not the easiest thing to do if you're in the middle of playing. There is more about the 3DS that'll go into software after I cover all the models in a little bit. In 2012, Nintendo released the 3DS XL, a bigger 3DS, like the DSi XL. It was more so for the person who wanted to upgrade. All the specs were the same, but the only difference was the size of the screen and the battery life. The screen was much bigger, and this was all better, and getting used to the bigger screen, it's hard to go back. The battery life was nothing special, only 1 hour more playtime at most. It isn't a game changer, but it was a nice bonus. I traded in my 3DS for a red 3DS XL. This one is my sister's. My original 3DS and 3DS XL are long gone, but some of the save data I still have all the way back from 2012. The XL feels great. It's a bit harder to fit into your pocket since the size, but that wasn't a big issue. The stylus placement is on the side of the system now. I never understood why people were so upset about the original stylus placement on the 3DS. You weren't going to be taking it out constantly. It never bothered me much. My only issue is it doesn't feel that premium, and it feels really cheap. It doesn't even feel as good as the original 3DS. The materials just feel very cheap and plasticky. It had a matte color and wasn't glossy. I did prefer the glossy, but that is more prone to being dirty. It came out for $200, and it wasn't really a necessary upgrade for people who already have a 3DS. More so people who are getting into it, or people who think the 3DS is too small, and I think I did a fine job doing that. In 2013, Nintendo defied all odds and released something opposite of what the 3DS was set to do. The 2DS was a budget version of the 3DS without the 3D. The system was meant for kids who were prone to breaking their DS. I think this was a smart move on Nintendo's part, releasing a budget version of the console to make it more affordable and appealing to people to buy. There were a lot of people who wanted to play a few 3DS games, and the 2DS games was an entry point. It was for sure different. If you can tell, it doesn't have the clamshell design, it's more of a slice of bread. To activate sleep mode, you have to turn the switch at the bottom of the system, and only had one speaker. If you already had a 3DS or 3DS XL, it wasn't worth buying this. It was for people who wanted to buy one, but the price was intimidating. Releasing at $130 with the game, it was a great value, and currently you can buy one new for $80 with the game. You're basically getting a brand new console with thousands of great games for the price of a Switch game. I didn't pick up the 2DS recently because I found this one on Facebook Marketplace with a good price for Mario Kart 7. Overall, this is very weird, but for people who don't care about the 3D, this is a great system. I think it feels really comfortable in the hands. It was apparent that the 3DS was running behind in terms of specs. It already wasn't very powerful, and moving forward, it was obvious. In 2014 in Japan and 2015 in the West was the new 3DS and new 3DS XL released. Like, new was built into the name, which always confused a lot of people. Anyways, the new 3DS fixed a lot of issues people had with the original models. The main attraction was face track in 3D, so you didn't have to sit completely still while playing. It was also updated to have a faster processor, being more powerful too. It added Amiibo support into the touchscreen. If you wanted to use Amiibo on the other 3DS models, you had to use an accessory. It added the ZR and ZL buttons on the side and this little nub which they called a C-stick. It doesn't feel like a button or a stick. It's hard to explain. Some buttons and stuff like an audio jack and cartridge slot were moved around, And one other thing is some of these models supported micro SD cards, not the standard ones. It came with a 4GB SD card, but if you're upgrading, you need the new one. The only difference between the standard XL is the XL has the most battery life, up to 12 hours, and the glossy coat, while the standard has interchangeable faceplates, which is a really cool addition. You can swap the faceplate to make your own type of system, and you can buy separate ones that can come in their own special editions, kind of like the Game Boy Micro. The problem is, the standard one was only available in limited time bundles here in the United States. I love the faceplates, but I do prefer the bigger screens of the XL. The new 3DS XL was an upgrade in every way and was a worthy upgrade. I waited to upgrade till in 2016 to the new 3DS XL, and this is where all my save data from 2012 lies. It's a great system. Oh god. The new 2DS XL is like the newer systems, but without the 3D. Sounds great, and it's pretty okay from what I've heard, but it misses the mark on a bunch of little things. The stylus is really tiny, and the speaker is where your palm should be. It seems fine, just kind of pointless to me. It makes sense because there are still people who don't want to use the 3D but still want the new features, but isn't saving them too much money. It first retailed for $150, and it still does. I think it came out too late. 2017. The Switch was out and the 3DS interest started to wane. I think it's fine. I don't have any experience with it, so I couldn't tell you how it feels. Overall, what one holds up today? It really depends on what you want, but there are two options. If you want the budget console or the one with the least features, you could buy the 2DS. The 2DS is a perfect entry point to play some games. It is cheap, and if bought new, it comes with the game, and still used, it's very cheap. If you want to get one with the most features, I'd say go with the new 3DS XL, or the standard one if you prefer the smaller screens. I don't think the new 2DS XL is all terribly compelling now, and you'd have to go the used route, but if you still want a standard new 3DS, it will cost more because of the limited release. There are many features inside the console that you don't really see. The new thing is now StreetPass, where you and another 3DS owner exchange data with each other when you're nearby. Your Mii's interact to play minigames in the StreetPass Mii Plaza. Man, I love the StreetPass Mii Plaza. It was always so exciting to see that green light up whenever I had my DS in public and to see who I encountered and what they were playing. It was so much fun, but now you almost never get Street Passes going out because the amount of people using their 3DS out right now is slim. It had a pedometer in the system, which it would count steps, and if you hit 100 steps, you'd get one play coin, which can be used in the Plaza or other games to get rewards. Street Pass Mii Plaza has DLC. I can go into a different video if anyone's interested, but I bought a few of them and they were really fun. I loved bringing my 3DS with me places to get Street Passes, but now since nobody plays it, it's basically dead. There are many other applications built in the system, the Sound app, Camera, Mii Maker, eShop, Activity Log, and a few smaller games like Face Raiders and AR games to show off the camera. They were fun, I guess, just nothing special, and it was more so a tech demo. There are more options like adding friends, receiving notifications, browsing the internet, and taking notes. Now, there are a few things here that are shut down, like Nintendo Zone and Miiverse. Download play is back on the DS. Depending on the game, you could play with other 3DSs nearby with only one copy of the game. Great to have this back. Now, one thing they added in an update and I loved was themes. You could change the background to a different color or buy themes based on a game. They had their own sound effects and music. It was great. Now that you have a 3DS and fiddled around with the stuff inside, you need some games. And the 3DS has many great games. They're pretty much games for everyone. Mario happened a lot on here. The main 2D and 3D games were great. New Super Mario Bros. 2 was nothing amazing or surprising, but it still offered a solid 2D Mario experience that I enjoyed probably way too much. While Super Mario 3D Land was a great half 2D, half 3D Mario, it's probably one of the best 3DS games due to its great level design, amount of content, and easy to pick up and put down nature. Speaking of platformers, Kirby Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot were excellent games. People say Robobot is better, but I prefer Triple Deluxe much more. Both games are amazing, and you should at least give one of them a try. They even had Mario Maker on 3DS. It isn't the best version since you aren't able to share levels online, but you do it through StreetPass. It still feels like making the levels here are better than Mario Maker 2's Cursor, but the game is just better overall if you have the options, so just go with Mario Maker 2. Pokemon was plentiful too. 4 sets of games and many spin-offs. The first generation in 3D, Pokemon X and Y, are amazing games that are underappreciated in my opinion. They really brought the series in a new way, and some of my favorite 3DS games to date. The remakes of Ruby and Sapphire, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, are modern reimaginings of the Hoenn games. I haven't gotten around to playing them, but I really want to. And the Gen 7 games, Sun, Moon, and the Ultra ones, take Pokemon in a new direction. Instead of fighting gyms, you take on island challenges to compete in the Alola League, with more Pokemon to catch and new places to explore. All these 3DS games are excellent in my opinion, and you can't go wrong with any of them, but I'd personally have to recommend X and Y or Ultra Sun and Moon. A large portion of the game I played were Fire Emblem games. There are many of them, and all are good in their own way. I love the story of Awakening, the map design of Fates, the different dungeons and echoes, and the hack and slash gameplay of Warriors. I did make a video on Fire Emblem Warriors already, and I did touch on the 3DS version, but it can only be played on the new 3DS, since it's too much for the old 3DS to handle. There aren't many games that require this, and I could talk about it in a bit, but still, all Fire Emblem games are great in their own right. Even though I like Fates more, if you had to pick one, I'd choose Awakening because of its gameplay and much better story, with varied amount of characters and things to do. All of them were a great time. The staples of any Nintendo system, Mario Kart and Smash Bros. Mario Kart 7 is probably my favorite Mario Kart, although it's nothing too special to go back to now if you have any future entries. It's still a very solid game, and it's one of the ones I played the most. Its new gameplay mechanics are great and all, with the new tracks as well as the returning ones are really fun. Smash 3DS, where do I start with this game? Most people hate it, but I actually like it more than the Wii U version. I think it runs really well for being on the 3DS. I feel like it has better modes and stages, and playing online or with friends on the go is great. Having the first portable version of Smash Bros. Was amazing. I never thought it could happen. Like Mario Kart, it isn't too great to go back to now, but it was an amazing experience that got me into Smash Bros. Again after I got out of Brawl. Those are the main games I got into. There are many other games that you can play, and the eShop. You can buy a lot of classic games through the Virtual Console or smaller downloadable ones. Some of the other games I played were Captain Toad, Icarus Uprising, Ultimate NES Remix, and loads more. The Virtual Console was great. I didn't download many games, but the ones I did I had a bunch of fun with, like Pokemon Silver and Kirby's Dream Land 2. But for some reason, SNES games only ran on the newer version, which was weird, and you had to buy a whole new game to get a different language for the Pokemon ones. Not all systems were offered either. We didn't see any Game Boy Advance games, but for what we got, I was really happy. I for sure missed some great games. There are way too many to list here. Well, the 3DS line is my favorite line in Nintendo console, period. It gave me so many memories and I had so many great games. It is sad to see it come to a close, but I will not miss the 3DS and I'm still playing mine now. If you want to get one, I'd highly recommend it. They are relatively cheap and easy to mod if you're into that. It is really a system I will cherish and always remember. This thing also plays DS games. While the 3DS wasn't perfect, it was an amazing system with killer games. I think it deserved a long-lived life, and I hope the other people who played it had as much fun as I did. Hey, that was a different type of video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I want to experiment a bit more on this kind of stuff, but next week I'll have a normal video, as I usually do. I worked really hard on this, and I would appreciate if you'd share it or give it a like. Thank you for watching. See you next week. Bye.